This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. Respectonomics is bringing you a new platform. It's called Living Attentively. We've had the Living Compass. The Living Compass was designed to help people see where they were and where they were going. And then we moved to the Living Asset, and the Living Asset was exploring the values of and the dignity of the human being, hence the expression living asset. We're now moving to another platform called Living Attentively. And what this is about is the idea of paying attention to people around us and what we need to do either for them or around them. And that is what we think in terms of paying attention. This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I am your voice of Respectonomics. And the opening conversation we're going to have on the living on Living Attentively is called Remote. To be or not to be. That may sound very Shakespearean, but in fact, we have an opportunity to be remote or not to be remote. And what I mean by that is this. We live in a world where the majority of us go to work. And in going to work, we have effectively two choices. We can either work remotely, meaning we work at home, usually, or we go to the office. And it has in fact become a tinderbox. It has become a very contentious issue ever since the COVID issues, where people were in fact compelled to work at home. Then people found out that they really enjoyed it. And from there's been this constant yin and yang. And in one sense, I don't want to get involved in the yin and the yang, but I want to talk about, first of all, let's go through some of the basic issues that confront or we work with in relation to working in an office. We think in terms of commuting. Commuting nowadays is extremely expensive, it's time consuming, it's frustrating, and I think for the most part it's a total waste of time. You're stuck in a traffic jam. And I suppose you can have sort of high thoughts about life or something, but most of us would agree that we're actually exhibiting frustration and concerns about getting somewhere on time. One of the big discoveries of working at home was that we were working on a screen. Nothing unusual about that. But what is also true is it's the same screen that we work with at work in the office. So the question arises, well, if the screen is the same as the one that I'm using at the office and is the same as the one at home, well, then why don't I just stay at home? We have issues of the office atmosphere. You can look at an office today and where there are people gathered together, we can easily find harmony. We can also find conflicts. So there's always that question of the office atmosphere. And I think one of the most important dynamics to the idea of being in the office is one is away from family and its obligations, as well as what I would commonly call domestic obligations. A domestic obligation, you're waiting for the electrician to come, or you're waiting for a UPS delivery. Whatever it might be, you can quite see why being at home would make life more convenient. So what are the risks? And the risks are probably, I think we could go on quite a lot, but here's three risks. One of them, of course, is out of sight, out of mind. And that is a risk in a corporate endeavor, a corporate enterprise, that if one's out of sight and out of mind, in other words, as well, then, of course, there's the risk that we're missing on promotions, inclusiveness, maybe social opportunities as well, but we're out of sight, out of mind. The biggest risk of all, we believe, is that if the screen application is in fact what determines one's work life, and therefore in that sense says, and I don't need people around me, that is an opportunity for AI, for artificial intelligence, to become the alternative to the screen. Meaning, in other words, we get replaced. Once we say we do not need people around us, we are opening or inviting an opportunity for AI to to come into our to replace us. And then, of course, those developments that take place at work that if we're not there, we miss them. Pure and simple. So those are the risks, the out of sight, the screen application that could become an AI application, and the developments and the changes that are going on in the what you might call the physical workplace and how they could affect us. Now, from a company point of view, this is where we need to start thinking about the level of attention that is given to the employees. But the first thing is most corporations believe that they have greater compliance and oversight when the people are in the office. Then there's the issue of meetings. And of course, you can call a meeting more easily. In fact, you may physically not be able to call a meeting if people are working remotely. So there's the issue of having meetings, the convenience of meetings, and so on. And then there's also the issue of backup in the sense that one's in a conversation, discussion with a customer or a supplier, and you need additional support. Having somebody in your easy vicinity is kind of an easy way to have the backup. There's the water cooler talk. And water cooler talk may be replete with gossip. It may be a place where there's a joke that's told that may not be terribly appropriate. But the water cooler is also where we find a degree of togetherness, symbiosis. We may be exchanging ideas. It can be a platform for new growth, new opportunities. There's the team approach. Many businesses understand the concept of a team. Respectonomics is, in fact, a team endeavor. We have a group of 24 of us who are constantly working or constantly believe in the exchanging of ideas. And then we think in terms of fixing not only new approaches, excuse me, fixing new approaches, but also fixing problems, which are maybe more identifiable when we are together. There are two sides, though, excuse me, two sides to the business of being in the office. One is it, and by sides, I'm talking about something that probably gives us reason to cringe. The first one is the hierarchical culture. And that is, there is a hierarchical culture in a business. It's, in a sense, almost militaristic, isn't it? But when you have this hierarchical culture, there is a sense that some leaders in those positions enjoy or get off on the idea of people being around them where they have a degree of control or authority. And therefore, the risk there is that we are being gathered together in an office, really, frankly, for the wrong reason. And the other problem is this, and that is to the extent that people prefer to work from home, there's the opportunity for a subliminal approach whereby the corporation says, we need you in the office. The employee says, I don't really want to be in the office, at which point the company, the corporation, the business, the organization replies with, well, in that case, you don't need to be part of our organization. And it becomes, in plain English, a place of dismissal without severance and all the usual benefits. So it can be subject to abuse. With that in mind, therefore, we need to look at what is the advantage of the employee being at home, as it were. And one of the things about the word remote is to understand that being remote can be very, very powerful. What I mean by powerful is there are times when we need to be able to get away from things. We live in a world of volatility, of frustrations, things moving around that we don't really understand. We live in a world of fear. We live in a world where think of anxiety and frustration. And candidly, we can deal with an atmosphere of hopelessness. And where this is important to be able to be remote is, in fact, to be able to go and collect oneself. A classic example, albeit an extreme one, was a colleague who went up to the Arctic to go on a canoe trip, quote unquote, to find himself. I'm not recommending that we all get into a canoe and go up to the Arctic Ocean, but I am pointing out that the ability to be remote, the ability to go into a wilderness experience where one can revisit oneself, where one can, as it were, press away those issues that are pressing upon us and give ourselves a new sense of freedom. So there's nothing wrong with being remote. It is important, however, to be able to use it for the advantages of self support, self revelation, and being able to bring oneself to a place where one is more comfortable with how one's carrying on. We also, in the world of the organization, we do see conflicts. And of course, we need conflict resolution. And that is the, should we say, the job of the employer to be aware of that. But the awareness, the attentiveness, that's why we call it living attentively. But one of the things is that when an individual, an employee, finds themselves in a place where they need to be remote, where they need the wilderness experience, when they need that, it's also important for the leaders to be aware of that and to say to somebody or to encourage somebody to be able to go away for this time of reflection and self-support, as it were. Sometimes we talk about going to the office and we think in terms of distractions. And there are distractions at the office, but let's be candid. There are distractions at home as well. So I'm not sure that we can make a real speech about distractions at the office. What I will say, though, is that there's a psychological importance of being at the office. And this is something that many students are aware of, or if one's a parent, one is aware of it in the student's life. There are two kinds of students, broadly speaking, the one who studies, the one who doesn't. And if you ask the one who studies, you'll find out quite often that they study at a regular time. They may study between 7 and 9 o'clock every evening. They do it at their desk. And why that's important is that the mind is very good at identifying what it's meant to be doing. So when that student sits down at 7 o'clock at their desk, the mind, the brain says, this is where we're going to get to work and we're going to be busy. And we have that same psychological influence when we're at the office. We're at the office to work. Conversely, if you're looking at your place at your home and your residence, there's a confusion because your residence is designed for a place of entertainment, it's a place of rest, it's a place of family. It's got all kinds of messages to it. Your brain doesn't easily identify with the need to be working. If you don't have an office, this is even more pronounced. That goes to the student who doesn't study. And often, if you were to say to that individual, when do you study? You get answers like anytime, any place, and sometimes when I'm lying on my bed. Well, the snag is, of course, the bed was meant for sleeping and not necessarily for studying. So there again, the psychology of one's circumference, the psychology of where one is, becomes very important to one's ability to be productive and so on. But I think the main point here is, what I want to emphasize, is that the corporation has a responsibility of recognizing where people's needs are and not to be using it as a sort of hierarchical, he says it all, you're at the office and everything's fine. Now we come to the point of how do you make the office attractive? What is it that is going to say to people or give people that sense that, yep, I really want to be at the office? And one of the most important things is it's a leadership issue. And a leadership issue, I think, is probably best, or not best, but one of the most powerful presentations of this was from the late President Ronald Reagan, who stated, he was the 40th president, and he stated, the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one who gets the people to do the greatest things. It's an important point. When leadership enables us to perform, when, and let's go to the heart of respectonomics, which is giving people their dignity, giving people their identity, and respecting them. When a leader produces within the individual a sense of self-worth, a sense that they really can be successful, that they have great capacity, when we give people that sense of what I call self-rapport, where they can actually look at themselves and say, yes, I am worthy, I can do it. That is when the more that I like me is when I will like somebody else. So when the leader gives me the opportunity to like me more, I will like him more, and by extension, will enjoy being at that office. So, this whole concept of building and dignifying, rebuilding people's identity and their self worth is an extraordinarily useful tool to attracting people back into the office and in a place where they feel worthy, where they feel enjoyed, where they feel inclusive. And of course, as we've repeatedly said, when you dignify people and you bring them together in this manner, that is when you create innovation, productivity, loyalty, and the sense of harmony, and candidly, the sense of good humor. Those are the ingredients that are necessary or essential, shall we say, for the purposes of building a business or building capacity. If we want to build capacity, we dignify the human being. If we dignify the human being, people will be attracted to us. And if people are attracted to us, that office environment, that sense of the organizational enclave becomes more attractive and people want to be there. There are two other things that probably should be mentioned, and that is the physicality of an office. And that is deals with two issues. One is lighting and the other one is showers. The lighting issue is people find neon lights and the equivalents, fluorescent lights, can be very distracting. The ability of a company to offer showers sounds a little bit off the wall, but how many people enjoy going out for a walk, going out for a run, going for a bike ride, or even bicycle to work? But whatever those opportunities are, the sense of even having a shower facility encourages people to be paying attention to their body, to their mind, and of course, ultimately into their own, what do you call it, inner being. And one last thing. We think in terms of our minds and we think in terms of being educated. And business has a habit of giving us numerous courses in the subjects of the course or the business in which we're involved. Actually, one of the most powerful tools to develop the mind is to offer education and courses in unrelated matters. So, for example, you might have something on astrophysics, you might have something on gardening, you can have all kinds of subjects that are of general interest to people. But when you produce educational programs that are, should we call them, literally unrelated, in fact, literally, they also expand the scope and the vitality of the mind. And what could be more useful than to have strident and vital minds in the workplace? So there it is. The concept of remote means we may need to be on our own. The sense of being included means the sense of bringing together the fullness of dignity, the fullness of respect, and to be able to look at these tools as ones of building capacity and building harmony and ultimately building prosperity. This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley, your voice of respectonomics, and I rest my case.